The match started 11 p.m. in a room that smelled like failure. February cold seeped through concrete walls of the University of Washington wrestling room. Fluorescent lights hummed overhead, casting harsh shadows across rubber mats. 5 wrestlers sat motionless in the bleachers, witnesses. Michael Patterson circled, 6 feet of NCAA champion muscle coiled tight, shoulders rolling with predatory rhythm. His breath came steady, controlled. Bruce Lee stood barefoot at the center, weight balanced on the balls of his feet. No warm-up, no ritual, just waiting. Michael exploded forward, a blur of 215 pounds driving low. His double-leg takedown had destroyed Olympic-level opponents. Perfect technique. Arms shot toward Bruce's thighs, head positioned tight against ribs, hips driving through the target. Bruce's hips snapped backward. His hands pressed down on Michael's shoulders. Weight shifted, balance absolute. Michael adjusted mid-attack without hesitation, released one leg, switched to single-leg grip, his fingers locked around Bruce's ankle. He yanked, twisted, used every ounce of championship-forged power. Nothing moved. Bruce remained upright, rooted to the mat like he'd grown there. His expression hadn't changed, calm, focused. The sweat on Michael's face caught the fluorescent glare as he pulled harder, but the real problem wasn't that Bruce Lee didn't fall. Michael releases, his hands slip from Bruce's ankles, fingers trembling, chest heaving, each breath loud in the fluorescent hum. Sweat prickles his temples. The rubber mat beneath his feet feels suddenly unstable, foreign. Confusion flickers across his face. He has pinned Olympic-level wrestlers, drilled takedowns 10,000 times until muscle memory replaced thought. Yet this smaller man, barefoot, relaxed, defended both attempts without shifting his weight more than inches. Michael resets, plants his lead foot harder, doubles his power. He explodes forward with everything his 215 pounds can generate. The shot is perfect, textbook, faster than the first 2. Bruce times it. Knee strike, sternum collision, not to injure, to disrupt. The impact folds Michael's forward momentum into itself. Air punches from his lungs, his hands grasp at nothing. The takedown collapses mid-drive like a bridge with the center beam removed. He stumbles. Bruce flows behind him, smooth, inevitable. Hooks slide in, hips glue to Michael's back. Weight distributes across every point of contact. Perfect position. Michael tries to stand, tries to twist, tries to nothing moves. His strength vanishes into Bruce's structure like water into sand. 45 seconds of controlled suffocation stretch ahead, and Michael realizes something worse than losing. Well, he never had a chance. 45 seconds earlier, Jesse Glover leaned against the concrete wall, arms crossed, watching his teacher stand motionless in the center of the athletic facility hallway. Michael Patterson's voice echoed off tile and metal lockers, loud enough to turn every head within 30 feet. Martial arts, it's all theater. Michael stepped closer, chest puffed. Choreographed nonsense. Fake strikes that never work on a real athlete. Students gathered, whispers spread. Bruce said nothing. His breathing remained even, unhurried. You teach people to dance. Michael's laugh carried contempt. Put you against a real wrestler. You'd fold in 10 seconds. Jesse's jaw tightened, but Bruce's expression never changed. No anger, no defense, just stillness. Michael gestured to the cluster of wrestlers behind him. 5 teammates, arms thick as tree limbs, faces eager for entertainment. Tonight, 11, wrestling room. I'll bring witnesses to watch this little experiment. The crowd waited for Bruce's response, an excuse, a deflection. Bruce nodded once. Good, Michael said, grinning. Don't bring an ambulance. Bring a camera so you can study what real fighting looks like. He turned and walked away, his entourage trailing. Jesse exhaled slowly. Bruce had brought no crowd, no backup, no bravado. Only one student, only silence. And somehow that made the challenge feel less like a spectacle and more like an execution. Everyone on campus knew Michael Patterson's name, the Bull, 215 pounds of muscle that moved like a predator. Jesse had heard the stories whispered in hallways, shouted at matches. Michael pinned an Olympic alternate in under 2 minutes last season. His double-leg takedown ended matches before they began. Fast, explosive, technically perfect. Coaches from other universities studied footage of his technique, searching for weaknesses they never found. Bruce stood in the center of the athletic facility, surrounded by Michael's teammates while students gathered at the edges. The air smelled of rubber mats and old sweat. Michael's voice carried across the space, loud enough to ensure witnesses. "Strikes me nothing once a wrestler gets his hands on you." Bruce did not raise his voice, did not move. The crowd leaned forward to catch his response. "Then try to get your hands on me." 8 words. Spoken without anger, without challenge, without anything except simple invitation. Michael's jaw tightened. His teammates exchanged glances. Someone laughed nervously, the sound dying quickly in the sudden silence. Michael stepped closer, close enough that Jesse could see the veins standing out on his forearms. 11 o'clock tonight, wrestling room. We'll see how your philosophy holds up against. But Bruce had already turned toward the door. The wrestling room swallowed sound. 11 p.m. February cold seeped through concrete walls despite the overhead lights burning harsh and yellow. Michael Patterson stood near the bleachers, peeling off his warm-up jacket with slow deliberation. 5 teammates sat scattered on metal benches, their murmurs low and expectant. Jesse Glover leaned against the far wall, arms folded, watching. Michael rolled his shoulders, cracked his neck left, then right. 215 pounds of Division I muscle, loose and ready. He stretched his hamstrings, bounced on the balls of his feet. Every movement telegraphed certainty. Bruce stood motionless at the center of the mat, barefoot, t-shirt. Hands loose at his sides, his chest rose and fell in a rhythm so steady it seemed rehearsed. No warm-up, no stretching, just stillness. Michael glanced at his teammates. One nodded, another grinned. Arrogance, Michael thought. The guy doesn't even know enough to prepare. Jesse saw something else entirely. The way Bruce's weight settled through his hips. The way his gaze tracked Michael's every shift without following the distractions. The jacket toss, the shoulder rolls, the performance. Bruce watched only what mattered. Style announces itself, principle waits. Michael stepped onto the mat, and Bruce's left foot slid back half an inch. Silence, 3 feet of rubber mat separated them. Michael's breath came steady, controlled through his nose. Bruce stood in a stance that looked wrong, not the squared hips of a wrestler, not the bladed profile of a boxer, something open, fluid. Weight distributed equally, as if he could move in any direction without telegraphing. Michael shifted his left foot forward half an inch. Bruce's eyes tracked the movement, not his shoulders, not his hands, his hips. 10,000 repetitions lived in Michael's muscle memory. The drop step, the level change, the explosive drive through the legs. His body could execute a double-leg takedown while his mind slept. Championship medals proved it. Olympic hopefuls had fallen to it. Bruce Lee had never competed in a wrestling match. Yet those dark eyes followed Michael's weight as it settled onto the ball of his left foot, followed the subtle rotation of his right hip, followed intent itself as if reading the attack before it existed. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Someone in the bleachers coughed. The sound died quickly. Michael's right shoulder dipped. Bruce's weight vanished backward like smoke. Before Michael's hands found purchase, Bruce was already behind him. The transition happened in the blind second between intention and execution. Michael felt arms snake around his torso, hooks dig beneath his ribs, weight settle onto his spine like concrete. Back control, the worst position in grappling. He bucked hard, arching his back to throw Bruce forward. Nothing moved. He bridged, driving his hips upward with 215 pounds of championship power. Bruce's hips stayed glued to him, adjusting to every shift with fluid precision. Michael rolled left, then right, executing escapes that had freed him from Olympic-level wrestlers. The grip never loosened. He grabbed at Bruce's wrists, tried to peel the hooks from his ribs. His fingers slipped on sweat, found no leverage. 45 seconds passed. His lungs burned. The rubber mat smell intensified with each gasping breath. Every technique in his arsenal had failed. Strength meant nothing against perfect position. He slapped the mat twice. They stood. Air came in ragged gulps. Heat flooded Michael's face, his chest heaving under fluorescent glare. Bruce's breathing remained steady. How did you learn to defend takedowns without wrestling? The question escaped before Michael could stop it, a crack in the foundation he'd built his entire identity upon. And Bruce's answer would prove far more devastating than the defeat itself. Bruce stepped back, giving space. I studied wrestling, judo, sambo. His voice carried no pride. Learned what they share beneath the surface. Michael's breath still came ragged, sweat cooling against the February chill seeping through concrete walls. His lungs burned. You studied principles. Bruce wiped his hands on his pants, not sport-specific rules. The words made no sense. Michael pressed his palms against the cold mat, grounding himself. But you did not train wrestling for years like I did. Bruce nodded once. I did not need to master wrestling. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Michael waited. I needed to understand grappling. Bruce's eyes held no triumph. You are better at wrestling than I will ever be. Michael's chest tightened. Then how? But I am better at not being wrestled. The distinction hit harder than the knee strike. Michael stared at his own hands, hands that had pinned Olympic-level opponents, hands that had been useless 60 seconds ago. His entire framework, his years of drilling, his championship medals, his identity as the best, all of it measured against the wrong standard. Jesse Glover shifted against the wall, silent witness to something breaking and reforming. Michael looked up at Bruce, and for the first time in his life, he did not know what question to ask next. Michael's voice came out hoarse. What does that actually mean? Bruce gestured toward the mat where Michael had struggled 60 seconds earlier. The rubber surface still held the imprint of their grappling. You train to wrestle other wrestlers who follow wrestling rules. I train to prevent any grappling from succeeding. Different goal, different approach. The fluorescent lights hummed overhead. Michael stared at the compressed mat, at the space where his strength had meant nothing, where his NCAA championship credentials had evaporated against someone who never competed in his sport. His jaw tightened. Teach me that perspective. Bruce nodded once, 3 nights a week. The agreement cost Michael no words, only the ruin of everything he believed about mastery. They trained Tuesdays, Thursdays, Saturdays. Michael arrived early, stayed late, asked questions that dismantled his championship instincts. Bruce showed him how leverage operated beneath wrestling moves, judo throws, street tackles, how timing replaced strength, how adaptation devoured specialization. Weeks became months. Michael's takedowns grew sharper, but his defense transformed entirely. He learned to see attacks 3 movements before they materialized. Principles emerged from the repetition like bones through shallow water. Fighting transformed, but the deepest lesson, the one that would reshape his future beyond any tournament, was still germinating in silence. 3 years swept past like water through open fingers, carrying Michael Patterson from that cold wrestling room to a championship podium bathed in arena lights. The trophy felt heavier than expected. Gold-plated metal cold against his palms. Microphone feedback squealed briefly before the technician adjusted levels. 2,000 faces watched from tiered seats, waiting for the champion's speech. Michael cleared his throat. Before I thank my coaches, I need to tell you about a man who beat me in 60 seconds. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. Bruce Lee, he showed me. Michael paused, steadied his breathing. He showed me that mastering a style is different from mastering fighting, that principles matter more than technique. He taught me for 3 years after that match, changed everything I thought I knew. The applause started slow, then built like thunder rolling across mountains. Jesse Glover sat 12 rows back, arms crossed, small smile creasing his face. He remembered that February night, the confusion on Michael's face when strength failed against understanding. Bruce was teaching in California now. 800 miles south, but the lesson moved without him, spreading through every wrestler Michael would coach, every student who learned that humility opens doors arrogance welded shut. One match, one conversation. One man willing to unlearn everything.